All right, folks, we finally got a new Speaker of the House. His name is apparently Mike Johnson, someone who I've never heard of. And I'm not some expert on the U.S. Congress. I do not watch C-SPAN on a regular basis. I'm not a fan of any of these people, but I think I'm fairly aware of U.S. politics. I've never heard of this person. Don't know who he is. He could be okay. He could be terrible. I don't know. But there is an awful lot of praise for this man if you look on the old Bird app on Twitter.com, or I guess this website that we're supposed to call X.com now. And I don't know where it's coming from. I assume that maybe this is just Republican talking points being pushed out, and so there's like Republican troll farms where people are told, okay, there's a new Speaker of the House, we have to praise him, even though I mean, there's no way that all these people who are tweeting about, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that Mike Johnson exists, that they can actually be happy about this person, because most of them, I would think, like me, have no idea who he is. You know, it's not just, and it's not even just like blue check Twitter users. It's not even, just conservative influencers. I mean, there are just random, like, pro-Trump accounts that seem to be, like, all singing the praises of the great Mike Johnson. And I've seen a few things on him. Now, there's one thing that keeps getting trumpeted around, which is legitimately positive. I don't know if it's true, but it's a nice thing to say about someone. And it's apparently that he's voted no on all of the Ukraine spending after the initial bill, which means he bought into the original scam, and then he kind of smartened up after that and said, no, we're not going to keep sending money to Ukraine. And he apparently has an F from an organization called Republicans for Ukraine, which I've seen some of their cheap ads on TV. Not very convincing. And so, that sounds like a good thing. I doubt that McCarthy has an F from Republicans for Ukraine. I mean, McCarthy wears a Ukraine flag lapel pin. So I guess this guy has had, at the very least, an upgrade in that department. But on everything else, I don't know. I mean, I do not know the guy. I don't know his integrity. You can look at, scorecards from, X think tank. Those mean something, but they don't tell me if you're a good person or not. I really need to know what his temperament is like, what he's going to do in this position, what he's going to let come to the floor, what he's going to block. And so there is no way for me to know one way or the other if this guy's going to be good. In general, though, as a rule, if you are able to get enough votes from members of the U.S. House of Representatives, in his case, I think it was like 212 or something, or 221. I was somewhere around there. It was barely over 200. I know that there were 209 votes against him. So basically, I would assume just like the whole GOP conference or thereabouts, enough to get a majority. If you're able to unite that many members of Congress, odds are you're probably a pretty bad person, because the people in Congress are terrible people in general. And so if you're just a good person and you try and go out and do the right thing, you're going to end up pissing off the vast majority, a super duper majority of the U.S. Congress. They're going to hate you. And so if this Mike Johnson guy is not hated, then he can't be that great. Or at least he hasn't done anything good yet. Which means that at this point, he could be a John Roberts type of person. Because remember, that John Roberts is the classic case of, pick someone who has no record, because then, the rhinos can't get mad at him because he actually hasn't done anything conservative in his career. But, he's a super secret right-winger is what they used to say about John Roberts. And John Roberts, he's a super secret right-winger, so he's going to kill Obamacare once it makes it to the Supreme Court. And then once Obamacare made it to the Supreme Court, lo and behold, super-duper secret right-winger John Roberts, his right-wing tendencies were such a secret. He kept up the lie for so long that he was, a milquetoast fence center, middle-of-the-road guy. that he even convinced himself that he wasn't a right-winger. And so he didn't strike down Obamacare when he had the chance. In fact, he resurrected it from the grave and made up the most contrived and tortured reasoning in order to try and defend the constitutionality of that act. And so I'm not saying that because you pick someone like a John Roberts, that they have to be bad. All I'm saying is that I have no real guarantee that this guy's going to be any good. Because if he had done any real great things in his past, the House GOP, and a majority would not have supported him. So who knows? Maybe he's just got a different strategy. Maybe he is someone who has bided his time and has, been able to just finagle his way in here. And he really is a secret far-right extremist. But that is yet to be determined. And so I will judge him. He essentially has a clean slate in my mind. He's not just from the McCarthy bloodline. And so I'll give him a chance. I'll give him just enough rope to hang himself. But it's not a great start when he says that the first order of business, now that he's the Speaker of the House, is guess what? Israel. They're going to pass some, meaningless resolution about how we support Israel and their right to defend themselves. So he's literally putting Israel first. And people, unironically, all over Twitter talking about how, this is a MAGA America First guy. It's like, well, you're not America first if you literally, when you get elected Speaker of the House, you literally put Israel first. That's the opposite of America first. That is Israel first. And there's a lot of Israel firsters in Congress and in media. I'm not an Israel firster. I think I've never been to Israel. I'm sure there's some very nice people who live there. But at the end of the day, I care about what happens here and what affects me. And I would say the same thing about someone who, who said the first order of business once I gavel the House to order, Speaker of the House, is we're gonna pass a resolution in support of the innocent civilians who are being murdered in Gaza in the bombings. If they said that even, I would say, okay, that's a nice thought. But you don't put Gaza first. That's not what you do when you're the U.S. Congress. So it has nothing to do with what side. What my thoughts on that war are completely separate from the idea that the U.S. Speaker of the House should be concerned with American affairs. First and foremost, not an internal conflict in a very small country halfway around the world. I mean, it's essentially a prison riot. Could you imagine if... remember that big prison riot in Brazil not too long ago, where the prisoners took over for like 2 months? And it was a really big deal. Could you imagine if we were in the same situation and the new speaker said, the first order of business when I gavel the House to order will be to pass a resolution in support of our friends in Brazil? It's like, what? So maybe again, this is just politics, because it's not going to be anything substantive. It sounds like it's going to be a resolution, which is happy talk. So, maybe this is just how he plays the game. And, if so, I'm not going to complain too much. I understand that there's a game to be played. And if you play it and you get good results, I'm going to give you a lot of leeway. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.